in the world. Right. So first of all, I'd just like to take a moment just to go over what we will be seeing today. So what are we going to do? We're going to be looking initially at the Ecole du Soldat, so the soldier school part of the 1791 regulations. This is basically the first school that any recruit was exposed to. So it's in essence teaching them how to stand, how to march, how to do their arms drill, how to fire, and there's a few other things that they start to learn. And then the next point from that on would be the platoon school, which will be a presentation that will be conducted in February. Once we've looked at the soldier school, we will be looking at the duties and responsibilities of French Napoleonic NCOs, specifically the corporal, the sergeant, and the sergeant major, be they in camping, garrison. We may also touch upon if they have any particular things to do during battle. Finally, the presentation will close with a definitive guide to French Napoleonic saluting. Just to bear in mind that donations are accepted kindly. There's the address at the bottom. And as Victor said, there will be a recording which will be made available along with this PowerPoint presentation at the end, should you wish to possess it. I'd also like to take this moment just to thank this man for the opportunity of having a worldwide audience. Up until now, I've had French and English audiences. Now I've finally reached my domination over the entire world. Thank you very much, Victor. Therefore, without further ado, let's take a look at the Ecole du Soldat, the soldier school, as outlined in the regulations of the 1st of August, 1791. So the soldier school is divided into 3 parts, known as parties in French, and each partie is divided into 4 lessons. We will be going over all of these, as you can see. I have, for the sake of clarity and of time, skipped over any repetition, so that if, for example, for the marching forwards, it is covered initially in the first part, but it is also covered in the third part. I will be certainly speaking about marching forward in more detail in the first part, and we will just go over it very briefly in the third part. The first and second parts of the soldier school is always trained, according to regulations, one-on-one, one NCO and one soldier. The first part is to teach the drill without arms. The second part is drilled with arms. And the third and final part, the regulations state that an NCO takes between 5 and 9 soldiers under arms. The regulations do, however, if there isn't an NCO per soldier, permit up to 3 soldiers to be drilled by the NCO. So let's have a look at the first part, first lesson, the very first thing they teach you when you arrive. The position of the soldier without arms. So don't worry of the picture. He is not trying to kiss aforementioned recruit, the sergeant. This is as the standard position. So it's the first thing you would be taught. So what are the points you need to look at? The heels on the same line. The feet form something less of a right angle. The knees straight but not stiff. The upper body leans slightly forward. The shoulders are kept back. The hands hang naturally. The elbows close to the body. The hands are turned a little outwards with the little finger against the trouser seam, contrary to the British where it's the first finger along the trouser seam. The head up without constraint and the eyes fixed to the ground 15 paces forward. So this is your standard position. This is your attention position, your garde-à-vous position. And it is also the same when you carry arms, except, of course, there's a musket in your left hand at the time. Once the soldier has been able to assimilate the position of the soldier under the garde-à-vous, he then is taught how to turn his head and to stand at ease. So the order to turn the head either to the right or the left is tête à droite or tête à gauche. How far to each side the soldier looks is clearly indicated. It is the inside corner of the eye opposite to the direction call in line with the habit's buttons. So, for example, if it is a tête à droite, eyes right, you will turn the head to the right, and the inside corner, the corner next to your nose of your left eye, should be in line with your buttons on your right side. Naturally, when you look to the left, it is the opposite. It is the inside of the right eye, which should be in line with the buttons of the left. The head is not snapped into the new direction, as in modern drill. The head is just turned promptly to the direction called, and it remains in this position until the order fixe, eyes front, is given, when the head is promptly turned to the front, and once again the soldier looks out 15 paces in front of him. During the dressing, his eyes should be fixed in line with the eyes of the soldiers next to him, on the left or right, depending where he's dressing. Repos, right. This is basically at ease. The soldier is no longer required to maintain either his position or immobility. He's allowed to loose limbs. He's allowed to maybe turn to the left or to the right. What is important is not to confuse the order repos, so literally rest, with en place repos, which means in your spot, in your place, rest. The en place repos is something that the soldier will learn later on, and it is used basically to relieve the soldier. They don't have to stay immobile and in the garde-à-vous position. But at the same time, you don't want them to wander away or break their dressing. So in the en place repos, the soldiers will keep one heel or the other always on the same spot so that you can maintain the dressing. In the repos, it is a lot more flexible. The soldiers can even sit or turn around and talk. Then the soldier moves on to the facing, so to the left and to the right. The video you are watching, you will be seeing this gentleman several times throughout the video. This is an Irish reenactor that I found on YouTube. I think it's the 70th Demi-Brigade de Ligne. So I know some of them are here today. So a special shout out to them for this one. So the facings. This is now where the regulations start to have a full version and a sanctioned contraction version. What do I mean by that? Simply, the initial edition of the regulation, the orders are written in full. And from the second edition, they are still written in full, but there is a paragraph at the start of the regulation saying that whilst cavalry do need long orders in order to be able to execute the maneuvers, the infantry needs short, snappy orders for them to be able to properly execute their orders. Therefore, I've taken the liberty of putting both the orders on there. You have the full version. At the moment, it's in black, but it will be in red henceforth. And the sanctioned contraction will be in blue henceforth. So for example, the full version is to turn to the right, peloton par le flanc droit à droite. The contracted version would be just peloton, flanc droit, droite. In essence, the sanctioned version takes out a lot of the vos, your arms, your left. It takes all of those unnecessary words out. In any case, facings in the French army, contrary to the British army, are always done on the left heel, whether it's turning to the right or the left. It is the left heel that turns, and the right heel is promptly brought along it. It does not stay behind. Basically, you're dragging it along for the turn, as you can see in the video. The right about face, if I can just turn the volume off, peloton demi-tour à droite, and it's the same with the sanction order. You can't contract this any further. One of the things that you see in a lot of new recruits and sometimes fairly regular veterans is that they forget that they have to grab with their right hand the cartridge box, as you can see in the video. And with the left hand, they have to turn the musket so the lock is to the front. Why? Simply as not to get the musket entangled with the accoutrements of your neighbor, and same reason for the cartridge box. The turn is done on both heels, and this time, first of all, the right heel goes to the rear, and the turn is done on both. Once the turn is complete, it is the right heel that comes up to the left. Once the soldier has learned how to stand, once he's learned how to turn his eyes to the left and to the right, once he's learned how to turn right, left, and right about, he is then taught the principles of marching. To march, the orders are quite simple: en avant, literally to the fore, marche. As you can see in the image of the soldier, it is not an ordinary, a standard march of heel to toe. It is specifically required in the regulations that the soldiers, the ham of the leg of the soldier has to be tightened. Why? The regulations state that no one man has the same length of step as another. So by tightening the ham, by pointing the toes of the feet down, and by putting the foot flat on the ground, you can guarantee, this is the word used, that the soldiers will all have the same length of pace. If you've ever seen the guards, the British guards on the Queen's birthday parade, if you take a look at their feet, it's not quite like that, but it's something that's extremely similar. So in essence, you are sliding your feet across the floor. The foot and the knees turn slightly outwards. No stamping, of course, it's just placed flat. During all this time, you are still looking out 15 paces in front of you, and your shoulders are to keep square. The halt can be done on either the left or the right foot. It just needs to be called just as the foot is about to finish its step. Once it's down, the remaining foot behind it gets just put into line. In reenactment, it is almost an unwritten rule that everything is done on the right, possibly for simplicity's sake. Whilst there's nothing wrong with that, it should be noted that the regulations do not state this. It can be done either on the left or on the right. Once a soldier learns to march straight, he will then learn to oblique march. So the oblique march, from what I gathered, was invented by the Prussians. I think it's an invention by Frederick the Great. In essence, it allows the soldier to not only move forward, but to also gain ground to the left or to the right. The order given for this will be oblique à droite, to go to the right, or oblique à gauche, to go to the left. March. The same principles of marching forwards are applied while you march oblique. So you're still placing that foot flat, you are still pointing the toes down, and you are still tightening the ham of your leg. But all the while, you are moving off to the right or to the left. As you can see, one foot goes forward, the other foot goes off to the direction that's called. And it is also recommended that the foot that goes out at the oblique angle, the toe should be turned inside. This allows the hamstring to be further tightened and therefore doesn't overextend the pace. Another very important aspect of oblique marching is to keep the shoulders square. A lot of times, we are not professional soldiers, but a lot of times reenactors, when they start to oblique march, inevitably beyond the third or fourth step, they start to shift the shoulders so that they're almost half turning into the direction. Don't do that. Again, the march can be halted either on the left or the right foot, just as that foot is about to complete its steps. I now invite any questions for the first part of the Soldiers' School. So over to you, Victor.
All right, so if you have a question, use your chat button and just put question. I'll see your name and we'll go in order by the first one that appears on my screen. I'll ask you to unmute, ask your question, and we'll proceed from there. So do any of, question from Hutch.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So my question is, with this one-to-one NCO training they had at the start, I guess it's two small questions really. One, did they have essentially holding rooms? Because obviously you wouldn't have enough, I can't remember what the ratio is, but obviously the ratio of X NCOs to X privates. Or would those NTOs be specifically only for training, like a cadre? And would they use corporal punishment, even just like slaps or knocks or little kicks or something, to enforce that training? Do we know? Thank you.
No problem. For the first part of the questions, theoretically, the depot of each regiment has a depot. They are the ones that should be training recruits, and once they're ready, they are sent out to the war battalions or the field battalions. The way this is done is basically you would have either a one-to-one, enough NCOs to do a one-to-one training. Otherwise, they would also, in some memoirs, call on corporals to do this, not just sergeants or sergeant majors. More often than not, when you read certain memoirs, they are not trained one-to-one. They always talk about a group. It varies. Some people talk about 3, other people talk about 5, training together, even at this stage of the soldier school. As to the second part of the question, were there any corporal punishment? Officially, the French army does not use corporal punishment since the revolution. That is, of course, officially what's written. However, there are accounts of certain conscripts explaining what the NCOs would do to some of the more lackluster recruits. This would include extra fatigue duties, extra training, or in some cases, this would involve going at the back of the barrack room and having an explanation, quote unquote, with the soldier. At the same time, the regulations also for the NCOs who are in charge of training the recruits say that the NCOs must use fair, sweet language and positive encouragement for the soldiers to progress. I have personal doubts that this was always the case. I hate to draw on my own experience as an ex-serviceman. It was not always sweet, nice language, nor nice, positive gestures that were used to make me understand what they wanted to do. I have the feeling, and I would speculate, that it was exactly the same at that period.
We have a question from Rory Martello.
Lovely. Afternoon. Thank you for that, Mark. One question with regards to length of pace again. So given that I'm on the taller end, is there, so it mentions about sniffling the ham to bring the pace down. Is there ever an official regulation for a step? So I know Dundas talks about a set distance, or is it just a case of a bit more?
I believe it is mentioned. It is specifically mentioned, the length of step, and it's measured, I think, heel to heel. However, I don't have that number to hand, but if you do have either the regulation or the translation of the regulations that I have done, it is mentioned in there.
Thank you very much.
No problem. It does talk about paces, that I know, and I'm sure it also mentions the fact that there is a certain length. I just don't have that number at hand, I'm afraid.
If there are no other questions, we can proceed with the next portion of the presentation.
No, I have one question.
Yes.
What's the estimated time for the regulations to train? What do you think?
How long does a recruit have to train before you're sent out?
Yeah.
It states that when the recruit is ready, when he has been fully trained, he will then be processed into the war battalions. I don't actually remember seeing a turnaround in terms of time. It just says when he's ready, he passes out and is sent to the war battalions. I suppose on the field, it all depends how urgent the soldiers are needed. Towards the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the 1830-1814 campaigns, recruits are not even having a week in the depot. They're having maybe a couple of days, and then they're sent out to the war battalions and training, learning their trade, training on the march. There is a very good book by Ron Poley that came out last year that explains this process in great detail that I can recommend. But in terms of actual times, I don't have a time, an official regulation time for training, but I do remember it says when the recruit is ready, he will be processed to the war battalions.
Okay, thanks.
All right. If there are no other questions, Mark?
Very well. So we're going to move on now to part 2. So this is the soldier under arms. Once he's learned how to stand, how to march, how to look right, left, turn to the right, turn to the left, and right about face, they give him a musket. They are not initially taught with the musket at the order position, that is on the ground next to the right foot. It's explained that the sergeant will place the musket directly into the left arm of the soldier and show him, actually physically show him how he is to hold the musket. So the same principles apply as being at attention without arms. The only thing that changes, of course, is the left arm, which is now carrying a musket. So the elbow should be a little bent and the hand is against the hip. The exterior edge of the butt resting in the articulation of the first and second fingers. And the thumb and first finger form a circle on the front, and all the other fingers are under the musket butts. It is not 4 fingers under the musket butt and the thumb in front. It is the thumb and the first finger forming a circle that you can see at the front of the musket if you're facing the soldier onwards, and the 3 other fingers are underneath. Initially, it is a strange way to carry the musket, but then experience has shown me that it's actually easier in that case to make sure it is straight and the weight does not take it too far. You can actually control that weight a lot easier with that extra finger at the front. Once the soldier has adopted and mastered this position, he will then be moved on to the arms drill. This is a video of the 2nd Battalion 21st in England drilling. There are imperfections, but overall I think it's a very nice video. Therefore I've nicked this from their YouTube channel and I've decided to make use of it for the presentation, so thanks be to them. Again, there will be the full version of the orders in red and the sanction contracted version in blue. I will not go into details during the loading process into the different movements. The video has been put on a loop and it is very self-explanatory, except we will be looking at each of the 12 steps of French loading. If there is anything on the video that is perfectible, I have made a note of it on the left-hand side. So in this case, the lock should be 2 inches above the right nipple. In the video here, it's much too low. It is a very high loading position. The second step, ouvrez le bassinet. Now you can start to see where the contractions really start to come in. Instead of pronouncing the entire 2 words of le bassinet, that is the pan, the sanction version just tells you to contract it to ne, which is the last syllable of the order. So from ouvrez le bassinet, we go to ouvrez ne. A big error, common error, we all do it, even I do it from time to time. The right hand, when you go to the cartridge box, does not, as the video show, go around the musket butt. It must slide between the musket and the cartridge box. And when you retrieve your cartridge, it must likewise come out between the cartridge box and the musket. It does not go around the musket. But if the musket is a lot higher, it would be more difficult to go around it, hence probably why this was instituted. Step 3, prenez la cartouche. This is now simply contracted to prenez touche. Again, just the last syllable of the word pronounced. Step 4 in the loading process, it's to rip the cartridge open. So déchirer la cartouche now becomes déchirer touche. Just a little point on the video that the right shoulder should be close to the body and not detached from it when the soldier lifts the cartridge to his mouth. In general, throughout all the musket drill, it does continually repeat that the elbows are close to the body and not out from the body. Step 5, amorcer. This is simply prime. Having primed, of course, the next step would be fermer le bassinet. So as the soldier is holding the cartridge with his first finger and his thumb, his 3 other fingers come in front of the pan and closes it on the order fermer nez. L'arme gauche, the right heel should now be against the hollow of the left foot, the toes facing to the front. So in essence, you've gone from the initial position where it's the left foot pointing in front. As you pivot on that left heel, it is now the right foot which is pointing to the front. I don't know if it's the angle of the camera. That might be wrong, but from what I see here, it seems that he's coming back to some sort of garde à vous position. Step number 8, cartouche dans le canon. Contraction, cartouche, non. So once the barrel is empty, once the cartridge, is emptied into the barrel, that is the only moment when that elbow should be coming up. So the elbow is down on the side, cartouche dans le canon, in order to pour the powder and put the cartridge into the barrel. The elbow is allowed to come up. And once it's finished, you put it back down and you get ready to do step number 9, which is tirer la baguette, or tirer guette in the official contraction. Again, the right elbow always comes down and grabs, and the head has to grab the ramrod. Oh, it's jumped a step. Sorry. Here we go. Bourrer. So at the order bourrer, the soldier lifts and forces the powder down into the end of the barrel. Again, the right elbow stays against the body during the ramming process. During the whole ramming and taking out and putting back the ramrod, that elbow should not be coming off your right side. That should be staying as close as possible. Why? Simply because you have a man next to you, and if everybody starts to take more space than necessary, you start to naturally look for a bigger space to be able to carry out your loading. Step number 11, remettez la baguette. Again, out after the barrel comes out, you still keep that elbow next to you, and it is the little finger that sits on the ramrod when you finished putting the ramrod back in. Some people interpret this as meaning the little finger is against the end of the ramrod, the other fingers joined as if you were putting your hand flat. Some interpret it as the hand is simply sat with just the little finger on the end. To be absolutely honest, the regulations do not go into that detail. It just simply says the little finger is against the end of the ramrod. So if your group does it with the hand standing up, or if it does it with the hand folded over, as long as it's covering there with that little finger, I don't see that being a problem. And finally, the last step, porter arme, just porter arme. Left elbow against the body throughout. The soldier, in this case, has his elbow too far out when he lifts the musket. And once carried, all the principles of the position underarms are to be observed. Okay, so that's the first position that you've seen at the beginning. Once the soldiers have learned how to load in 12 times, they are then taught other arms drills. First of all, we'll have a look at the make ready position. This is on 3 ranks, okay? So in reenactment, most of the time we're on 2 ranks. In that case, the ranks that our first rank would be the second rank historically, and our second rank would be their third rank historically. We would not do this position, but let's have a look at it anyway to see historically how to do it on a 3-rank battle line. The official full order is apprêtez vos armes. Apprête is literally to make ready or to make ready for something. The contraction is simply now arme. What is interesting is that after the soldier learns how to do this individually, the order for firing to make ready will always, from the second part of the, from the third part of the soldier school, in the platoon school and in the battalion school, it will always be arme. You will never see this apprêté again. So I would recommend from the start that you get people used to arme means make ready. Do not get them too confused, especially if they're non-native native French speakers or even francophone Phils. With the apprêté, simply to make it easier, just arme. For the first rank, when it does happen in reenactment, what I often see, what's often been observed is that the first rank just goes down like a sack of spuds. You should not be going down on yourself like a sack of spuds. What's actually happening is, as the body is going down, you're actually rather throwing it to the rear. And this way, if you're doing it correctly, since your left heel is still in place, your left leg should be forming a right angle. The second rank, which is figure number 3 on the picture here, at apprêtez vos armes, so arme, and the third rank, which is figure number 4, they just take the standard make ready position when we are standing. So these would be our first and second ranks in reenactment. The fire, to aim and to fire. Joue followed by feu. With joue, when you're presenting the musket to fire, what often happens is that the right elbow seems to want to go up to the level of your shoulder. You must resist this at all costs. The elbows are close to the body at all times. I will be going into greater detail about the positioning of the different ranks a little bit later on, but in essence, that right leg of the first rank soldier is going to come right through the second rank. And if that second rank man has not adopted the prescribed position that we saw earlier for the loading and the make ready, he's going to get a nice whack into the shins. Hence why you throw your body backwards.
Mark, if we can interrupt just for a second, Pat
Yes.
Rice has a question that might be pertinent for everyone right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. No, just a question about when we're in 2 ranks, because historically, towards the end of the empire, there was only 2 ranks.
Correct.
Do we know historically if the front rank would kneel when they did 2 ranks?
The simple answer is it doesn't go. The memoirs I've come across doesn't go into that much detail. However, from a practical point of view, the only reason on 3 ranks the first rank is kneeling is so that that third rank can present and fire safely. Once the ranks are able to fire over each other without the need for that first rank to come down, it would appear to me to be a lot more practical to keep everybody standing than going down.
Hi, can anybody hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I have a copy of a manual, and on the peacetime establishment for the French army, they were in 2 ranks. And when you're in 2 ranks, the front rank didn't kneel.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what so in essence, I hope that answers the question.
And Giorgio, Gomez, it looks like on my screen.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Just a quick question to Mark about the feet position of the third rank.
See.
Sometime we use in reenactment over Europe, I have to discuss with other forage from Eastern Europe reenactors. They used to have the idea that the third rank man right foot has to go against left feet of the other man. Your right man, you have to touch his left feet with your right foot. What do you think about that? Is a practical idea? It's a true one, an historical one? What about?
It is historical. It is in the manual. If you look at the the picture at the moment on the screen, if you look at that third rank man, he is clearly putting his foot out towards the right. I was not going to talk about it here because it goes into a bit more detail later on in the presentation. But in essence, yes, the third rank man, when he presents, he steps with his right foot, and his right foot must be touching the left foot of the man on his right, if that makes sense. Why? The regulation explains this is to allow the third rank man to go into the créneau, that is the gap between the two where his musket is going to go through. It's a lot easier to step out a little bit and go down that gap instead of trying to put the musket over the shoulder of that second rank man. And that's the reason why they take a step out. Therefore, if we're using a two-rank battle line, then that second rank is doing what the third rank is doing. That is to take that right step to the right to get into the gap in front to put the musket down easier. Does that answer your question, Giorgio?
Yeah, so let's continue on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. After firing, reload or carry. Once you've fired, there are two possibilities. You can either maybe decide to put another volley into the enemy, or if it's sufficiently shaken, maybe this is the time to go forward with the bayonet. To reload after firing, the only order that is necessary is charger, which literally means load. At that order, if you were on a three-rank line, the first rank would stand and reload standing. And the third rank would put his right foot back behind the left. He would take up that right angle of the feet that you saw earlier when the soldiers are taught individually to load their muskets. If you wish to carry the arms and not to reload, it can often happen in reenactment that we fired a volley, now we're going to progress. Generally, in Europe, we don't advance with arms loaded. Therefore, when the firing has been executed, you order porter, insisting, rolling that last syllable, so that this gives enough time for the front rank to raise and all three ranks to, from the present position, to take the loading position, that is the musket underneath the right nipple, and automatically pull up the cock and close the pan and wait in this position until the order arm is given. So you have to roll that last syllable until everybody is ready, but you have to give the soldiers time to take the loading position, knock the hammer back up, and close the pan. The present arms. So again, I've put the contraction, it's just présenter arme, and porter arme to carry. Barrel straight, covering the left eye. I have seen a lot of people put it in the middle of the nose like the British Army. No, it is covering the left eye. Little finger against the spring lock, the lock spring, sorry, and the left thumb along the stock. Elbows, of course, I think you get it by now, against the body. And the hammer, the cock, is in line with the last button of the abbey, more or less your belly button. After that, you have the order arms. So the order arms has now been taught. So reposez-vous sur vos armes is too long. The contraction is just reposer arme. Left hand which is against the hip, drops a little bit. This allows the right hand to grab the musket as high as possible without dipping your left shoulder. The heel of the musket butt is next to and against the point of the right foot. There's a lot of discussions about this on reenactments. The regulations here are very explicit. The heel of the musket butt is next to and against the point of the right foot. And the barrel is 2 inches from the shoulder ramrod in front. And the barrel is held between the thumb and forefinger, and all the other fingers are extended and joined. Arms inspection. I've divided this into 2 parts. The first part, so basically very practical for reenactors. At the end of the battle, check weapons before going out. There is an historical maneuver for this. It's inspection des armes, literally inspection of the weapons. However, putting the bayonet is not optional. It is systematic. Why? Because this is also how an officer or an NCO inspects the cleanliness of your weapon. So what you do at the order inspection des armes, you do a half turn to the right, you incline the musket to the rear, you fix the bayonet, then you put the ramrod inside the barrel, and then you come back to the attention at the front, and you remain in this position. When the officer or the NCO, whoever is doing the inspection for your rank, arrives in front of you, you automatically lift the musket straight up with the right hand, and the left hand comes across, grabs the musket between the first band and the lock, and then holds the musket before the left eye with the lock outwards and the left hand in line with the chin. Unlike this photo of me a few years back doing it, that left hand should be at the level of the chin. Okay. In this position, the officer or NCO inspecting takes the musket, if he so wishes. If he wants to look at the pan, he might just open the pan, have a look inside while you're holding it, but he is free to take the musket. Once he has finished inspecting it, when he returns it, you grab it with your right hand and you come back to the attention with the arms on the ground by the right foot, and you remain in that position for as long as the inspector is in front of you. As soon as he has passed, and without orders, you put the ramrod back, you go back to the half turn on the right, you incline the musket backwards, you take the ramrod out, and you come back to the attention position. You do not take out the bayonet. If the instructor wishes the bayonet to be taken off, he will have to order it separately. It is the ramrod which is automatically put back. To spring the ramrod and to fix unfixed bayonets. Okay, so if the instructor doesn't want to inspect your weapons, but just wants to make sure that your barrel hasn't got a charge down it, he can, instead of ordering inspection des armes, he can order baguette dans le canon, or the contraction baguette non, which literally translated means ramrod in the barrel. It is exactly the same procedure. The soldier half turns to the right, inclines the musket to the rear, takes out the ramrod, puts it inside the barrel, and comes back to the attention position. When the inspector comes before the soldier remains still. He does not move. The inspector will just spring the ramrod inside the barrel. Once the inspector has passed the soldier automatically and without orders half turns to the right, inclines the musket to the rear, takes the ramrod out, and comes back to the attention position. If the instructor wishes you to fix your the bayonet, if it's not already fixed, from this position, so this is the position of order arm with the musket next to the right foot, he will order bayonet au canon or bayonet non for the contraction. Exactly the same maneuver, half turn to the right, incline the musket backwards, fix the bayonet, and come back at the attention. The order he uses to put the bayonet back is remettez la baïonnette. to ground arms and take up arms. So ground arms, vos armes à terre, or arme terre if you're using the contraction. Turn the musket with the lock to the front. This is better so that it doesn't get any mud when you put it down on the ground. And at the same time, your left hand seizes the cartridge box. The number of times where people do not seize the cartridge box always astounds me. This is simply so that the cartridge box, if not well positioned or well attached, does not suddenly slide in front, slide from around your back out to the front, or maybe doesn't slide further into your back, therefore rendering your accoutrements all mixed up. Again, look straight ahead. As you're putting the musket down, too many people look down on the ground or look at the musket. They're looking everywhere except straight ahead. Those eyes should be fixed 15 paces before you at all time. And it is, of course, the left foot that comes out, and you bring it back on the right foot in place. Relever arme, take up arms. It's exactly the same process, but in reverse. So out comes the foot. You're still looking in front. You grab the musket. You're holding your cartridge box all the while. And as you come up, you let go of the cartridge box and you turn the musket so the ramrod is facing to the front. To shoulder arms, portez armes, or portez vos armes. Lift, turn the musket to the left shoulder with the right hand. Drop the right hand down onto the frizzen, and then back to the right side. Once that's done, or while it's done, this is all one swift movement, of course. Lift the elbow, the left elbow a little bit bent and the hand against the hip. Again, this is a good opportunity to remind you all the principles of carrying the musket. The first finger and the thumb form a circle on the front of the butt of the musket. The other three fingers are underneath, and the exterior edge of the musket butt is resting in the articulation of the first and second fingers. To support and carry arms. L'arme au bras, the support arms contracted to l'arme-bras. Grab the musket with the right hand and raise it a little. And drop the left hand and support the musket with the right elbow against the hammer and the right hand out against your breast. This is the position, and it's the only position authorized when doing l'arme au bras at the standstill. When on the march and ordered l'arme au bras, the regulations clearly state that if the soldier wishes to, he can also grab the musket with his right hand to give it a little bit more solidity. Does he have to keep his hand on his right breast? It does not say he has to. There are a lot of pictorial evidence from the period that shows that this right hand tends to go down and rest in the bend of the right elbow. But again, this is only when you're marching. Therefore, I would not be hung up about the soldiers having the hand on the breast or having it down on their right arm while marching. However, at the standstill, l'arme au bras, there is no left hand holding, there is no right hand holding the musket. It is just the left hand, left elbow, which holds the musket in place. And portée, to carry the arm, the musket again from this position, is exactly the same process, but backwards. Carry arms at will. L'arme à volonté, something that you don't see that much. Literally translated, l'arme à volonté means at will, so arms at will. Therefore, there is not a prescribed position to take. I have translated the regulation text in full. So it's carry the musket at will on one shoulder or the other with one or both hands, but with the end of the barrel always in the air. When you move on to platoon school, you will find out that this order is given when you open ranks to do a nice long route march. So each rank is open up a certain amount of paces. And when the officer gives the order, l'arme à volonté, everybody breaks step and everybody can talk, maybe have a smoke while they're marching. And the weapon can be carried on one shoulder or the other, one hand or the other, but as long as the barrel is always in the air. There are specifications not explained in the regulations themselves, but in another thesis that was published by Ney Davout, that explains also that for nice long marches, officers can give the word, give command, give authority to the soldiers to sling muskets. When you need the soldiers to stop marching at ease, you just have to give the order porter arme. The soldiers carry the weapons and the ranks close up and everybody takes the step. Secure and carry arms. In the event of it's raining, of course, l'arme sous le bras gauche. One of the most common mistakes, in fact, I think everybody has done this and everybody continues to do this, is everybody grabs, like the gentleman on the video, the first part, grabs with the right hand the neck, like this, of the musket. This is not what the regulations say. The regulations state that the right hand, the right thumb is against the brass opposite the lock, and the forefinger is against the hammer. It is a lot higher up than this. The rest of the maneuver, the gentleman executes very well. Seize the musket with the left hand at the first band, thumb against the ramrod and elbow against the body. Reverse the musket under the left hand pit by lowering the left hand, little finger always against the hip, and of course, the elbow close to the body. Do not extend the elbow up. And to carry the weapon again, it is porter arme et not relever arme, as it is in the presentation. I'm sorry, I've just realized that. My fault.
I missed that one too.
Yeah. Bayonet au canon. The French army has two ways of fixing and unfixing bayonets. We have seen the first one, which is with the weapon by the side of the foot. There's also fixing and unfixing bayonet when you're carrying the musket. For that, the orders are exactly the same. Bayonet non, bayonet au canon. But when the musket is on the shoulder, it will simply be grab the musket with the right hand near the first band, let it slide down, grab with the left hand and get the bayonet with the right hand, fix it, and automatically carry it again. There is no need for another order to carry the musket. It is straight down, fix, straight up. The charge bayonet. Croiser la bayonet, contracted to croiser net. Grab the musket with the right hand at the neck and drop it to the right side and holding with the left hand just under the first band. Feet in the loading position. This is the famous right angle. Again, the elbows close to the body and the right hand against the haunch. The point of the bayonet should be eye level. If you haven't got bayonets at your reenactment during a battle, the end of the barrel should be in line with your eyes. And of course, porter arme, as always, just the reverse. The trail in the carry, donc descendez arme. This is the trail, a bit like if you've got a tree or maybe an arch of a gate or a house you're going in, which is a bit too low. Descendez arme brings it down, and even with the bayonet, it should not be higher than your shako. Therefore, if you can't get in with your shako, you're not getting in anyway. What I sometimes see is that at this position, people take a natural trail where the musket is more or less in a horizontal position. This is not what the French regulations say. The muzzle should be inclined slightly forward and the right hand against the haunch. So it's almost like if you were doing a reposé arme, an ordered arms, except you're not putting the musket butt on the ground. At the word porter, to carry, you will incline the musket back in a vertical position, and at arme, it goes back on your left shoulder. Firing. This is where I wanted to go into a bit more detail about the presentation of the feet. So hopefully this will make things clearer for Giorgio. So for firing, for direct firing, when you want to fire straight forward, the orders are, and this is in the contracted and in the officially sanctioned words to give, peloton, arme, joue, feu, charger, if you want to reload, or porter, rolling that last syllable, arme. As you can see in the video, that first rank leg is going to come in quite hard. So you've got to make sure that second rank, if you're in 3 ranks, gets his leg out the way. And the rear rank, be it our second reenactment rank or the third rank historically, that right foot is going out and touching the left foot of the man on the right in order for you to be able to put that musket down in the gap easier. Oblique firing, this is possible. For the first rank, if it's kneeling, this is quite easy. It is just pulling the shoulder of the direction where you need to present backwards so that your musket is facing in the right direction. Again, for 3 rank lines, first rank at charge always stands to reload. The second rank, so this would be our reenactment first rank. He does not move his feet. He's got the easiest job. His feet, whether you're firing obliquely to the right, obliquely to the left, or if you're firing directly, stay exactly in that right-hand angle. The third rank is the guy, or the second rank in reenactment, he's the guy that has to remember a lot of things with his feet. So in the direct firing, his right foot goes out and touches the left foot/heel of the soldier to his right. When he is oblique firing at the present à droite, donc oblique à droite, joue, his left foot goes forward next to the right heel of the second rank man in front, and he aims on that man's right. If it is à gauche, oblique à gauche, joue, his left foot, it's only the left foot that's going to be doing the work, goes forward next to the right heel of the second rank man on the left, and he aims out to the left. So for the first time, you're not aiming on the right side of the man in front of you, like an oblique à droite or direct firing. You're actually aiming on the left side of that guy, which means when the order to reload comes in, he cannot he cannot prime his musket on the right side. So he will prime his musket on the left side. And when he takes his musket away to do arme à gauche, that's when he faces again to the proper front. The alternative to doing that, I have seen it a couple of times, is the man desperately tries to lift the musket over the bicord or the shako of the man in front of him, inevitably knocks it off, knocks it, and then comes down to the right side. No, load in that left-hand side when you're doing oblique à gauche, joue.
If I can add one comment here, as a cavalry person, when you form square, cavalry is taught to attack from the left side of the square merely because it's more awkward to fire obliquely to the left than it is to the right. Something to bear in mind. When done correctly, they will always charge from the left side, making it harder for you to bring your muskets to bear that way.
Fire by independent file. So this is what's called le feu de deux rangs, firing by 2 ranks, literally translated, but it's a fire by independent firing if we're following British terminology. The order is simply feu de deux rangs, peloton, arme, everybody makes ready, commencez le feu. At that point, the first and second rank man, the first man doesn't go down, he stays up, but it's just the first and second rank man that will present and fire. From that moment onwards, the first rank man loads and fires at will. The second rank man, having fired that first time, gives his musket to the third rank man behind him and takes his, fires instantly, reloads, fires, exchanges again, fires, reloads, fire. So except for that first volley, the second rank man will need to fire, load, and fire again. What does the third rank man do while this is going on? He's loading and ready to pass the musket in front.
We have a question from Pat.
Yes, Pat.
Yeah, hi. Before we get too far away from the proper position,
Yes.
When the rear rank is in firing position, does he put his elbow on the shoulder of the second rank?
Nope. The elbows for all three ranks for all firing is close to the body.
Close to the body, but not touching.
Well, it says as close as the man's corpulence allows. That it should not be coming up. It should not be detaching. He should be trying to keep it as tight to his body as possible.
Okay, but in terms of I guess the front back axis. I mean, the thing is, you want to get, if you're in the rear rank, you want to get the end of your musket as far to the front as possible, so you're not shooting, in the face of the guy in the rank in front of you.
Pat, are you referring to the left elbow that's supporting the musket?
So yeah, the left elbow. Would the left elbow be on the right shoulder of the second rank?
I'm having a bit of a hard time seeing what you mean. So the second rank's left elbow touching.
So the rear rank. The rear rank. You move
Yep.
your foot. You move your right foot to the left. Your
Yep.
right foot to the right to go into the gap.
Yes.
And then you lean forward so that you put your left elbow on or very near the right shoulder of the rank in front of you.
Nope, not at all. This is not at all said in the regulations. If you haven't shifted during the loading to the rear, if the front rank man hasn't shifted his feet, if everybody's kept their left heel and their right heel in place when you do l'arme à gauche, the men should be still naturally close. Therefore, when that second rear rank man presents, all he has to do is just take that step to the right. He is still facing square. He's not facing in any direction. And that musket end should be easily clearing that first rank by at least a good 25 centimeters.
Okay, just because I've seen some people less experienced who are too far back in the rear rank.
That's what happens when people sometimes reload, is instead of fixing the left heel in place until you shift to l'arme à gauche, and when it's the right heel that takes up the fixed position, everybody just sort of shuffles a little bit, normally to the rear or the front or the side. But there's one thing though that is very how can I say, difficult for the third rank to deal with, and again it comes back to the elbows being close to the body, is if the front rank man presents with his elbow up, that elbow will be covering that entire gap, therefore making it very difficult for the rear rank man to put his musket down it. Hence why those elbows need to be tucked in. Does that help in any way?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
No problem. While we're here, anybody else want to add a question? Okay, we're almost at the end where I'll be taking the questions anyway, so I'll just carry on. So the first time a file fires, they will fire together, and then it's everybody fires at will. The second and front rank man fire as quickly as possible. The fire will be progressive. It will go from right to left the first time, but as soon as you fired, everybody just fires as soon as possible. So it becomes a fire at will. This is the standard firing of the French infantry of the period. It is not direct volley firing. It is firing by independent files. Okay, so I would encourage all groups to practice this as much as possible, because yes, it is different to volley firing. It is a little bit unnerving, first of all, but this is the firing that everybody should be aiming for in combat situations. Voila. Does anybody have questions about the second part? I know the second part was a fairly lumpy part, so if there's any questions, Victor, already on the chat, I'm ready to hear them.
All right, I have one question myself. What
okay.
is the French command for sling arms?
For
sling arms. You mentioned it was possible to, on a long march, give that command.
Yeah, they do not give the word of command, a word of command to say it. It just says that the officers will permit the men, or give authority to give permission to the men to sling their arms. I suppose what we've used before is fusil à la bretelle, or something similar, something involving bretelle. Or naturally, if the march is long, men will start to do it naturally. And if, I suppose, if they're not caught by an NCO, or they're not scolded by an officer, it's okay.
Okay, and Nicholas has a question.
I have also one question.
Yes, I was asking Mark, what was the position where the position for feu de rang? Is it a volley fire?
No, it's an independent fire. So
there's feu de rang and feu de deux rangs.
Ah, feu de rang. Oh, right. Okay. You're going to the end of the regulations. Yes.
Okay.
Feu de rang is a rank file, and it is at the end of the 1791 regulations. It is in the paragraph that explains how to fight against cavalry.
Okay.
So the way that's done is when you form the square, you go to croisé bayonet. Everybody brings the musket down to the croisé side, and from there you fire one rank at a time, not up against the shoulder, but down against the hip. I would not recommend this one.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So that's feu de rang, firing by ranks. Feu de deux rangs is the fire independent fire at will.
Can I ask you something, Mark?
Yeah.
So I have only one practical question. When the third rank is giving the ammunition to the second rank, yeah, by reloading, so is some exchange between the second and the third rank for the ammunition after all, or because the amount of ammunition for the third rank is only half in this concept after all?
They should not be, they do not exchange ammunition, they exchange muskets.
Yeah, but the third rank has only half of the amount after all.
Ah,
what are we doing?
Yeah, I suppose, but that's their problem. Don't forget that if someone in the first rank dies, then that second rank man would step up into that position, and then the third rank man becomes third. The third rank man would become second. They don't address that question, to be absolutely honest, in terms of ammunition quantities. They just say feu de deux rangs, this is how it's done. So in essence, the second rank loads the musket, his musket, and the second rank man's musket, and pushes it forward to him. It doesn't mention anything else.
Giorgio has a comment to add.
Yeah, just to add about that, it's an historical point, not a regulation one, but the third rank, normally we have a lot of memories and even report for Marshal Ney under marshals that say that the third rank don't like and don't want to switch gun with the second rank in rank 5, in 5x5. And that means that most of the time, the third rank just wait to close a wounded gap, that soldier gap.
Correct.
And this is official starting from 1810, and maybe these use start already in the Consularate and the First Empire Army.
That's true. Ney also states in his own thesis that maybe the best way to use the third rank is to make them step back a step and just wait. So you are right, they did not like to do that. In terms of our reenactments, since we are on a 2-rank line, we can just employ the method used by the first and second rank, which means that everybody is firing and there's nobody at the back reloading.
Do we have any other questions before we move on to the next section?
Yes, from Nicolas. Then in reenactment, what should we try to show? Firing of first and second rank or second and third rank? I mean, everybody up or one line kneeling and the other one standing?
If we are on 2 ranks and we are doing direct firing, then in that case, all the ranks are up. There is, I think a colleague just mentioned it before, if there is 2 ranks, there is no need for the first rank to kneel. It is kneeling because the third rank is firing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are doing file firing at will, in that case, again, the 2 ranks stay up. The only time that first rank needs to go down to the ground if it is on a 3 rank line and it is you are doing direct firing. There's no other maneuver that asks for the first rank to be kneeling.
Okay.
So the question is, what should we be doing in reenactment? That's a very broad question. My own position would be we should be training the men to do oblique firing, direct firing, and we should be training them also to do foul firing. If we're doing battles, we should be showing foul firing and not direct firing or oblique firing. But then that's just my position. It is not something, it depends on your battle scenario. It depends on what your own national rules are, what your national conventions. It's a difficult one.
So we next have a question from Peter Boyden.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, Chris Main.
Okay, Peter.
Yeah, just to be clear, because in the Dutch-Belgian army, we basically use the same drill. When you charge with bayonets, it's in 2 steps, and then on the 3rd step, we usually do a shout. So
Yes.
is it the same in the French? So it's
you mean you have one, you split the movement of charge bayonet. 1, you grab the musket. 2, you bring it to the side, and 3, you bring it down, shouting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's what the old 21st from England used to do. The regulations say it is 1 time, 2 movements. It is not 2 times 1 movement. So they say the first movement is you grab the musket, and the second movement is you bring it down. You don't hold it and then bring it down. You just bring it down. But it's 2 movements, but 1 time. So it's 1 action. It is not 1, 2, down. It's 1 directly.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And Chris Main?
Yeah, 2 quick questions. One was, you mentioned firing at will. I was just wondering if there's any additional gap there. Is that just natural, or does everybody still try to close up as much as possible? Maintain a proper distance.
Everybody should be maintaining their own area. The frontage of the company should be maintained at all costs. That's why there are 3 lines. A lot of the theorists of the 3 rank battle lines said that the 3rd rank could step up if there were casualties. So the front would stay the same and it wouldn't shrink, whereas a 2 rank battle line would quickly shrink. Inevitably, in the confusion of battles with cannonballs coming at you, smoke, shouting, blood, gore, and all that, there are many how can I say this, memoirs that talk about soldiers just firing in the air, firing whenever they can, and officers having incredibly a hard time trying to cease fire afterwards. So it sort of degenerated very quickly into firing, and not necessarily firing correctly. They said the conscripts are just shooting in the air. Everybody else is shooting, so we're shooting in the air. And as Giorgio said, there's even instances of the 3rd rank shooting, but because they can't shoot straight, they're just shooting in the air. Or if they are trying, they're actually blasting the heads of the 1st rank guys. So I suppose in the heat of battle, all this neat little precision quickly degenerates, that is undoubted. However, in terms of reenactment, luckily, we are not in fear of our lives. We're not going to be shot. We're not going to die. So we can concentrate on maintaining these positions and these different maneuvers, not just for an historical argument, but equally for a more to have a more a safer environment for us to execute them. I don't know if I've answered you exactly, Chris, so please correct me if I misunderstand.
Read accounts of the American Civil War, and you're still using Napoleonic tactics. Basically, the same thing was happening in the heat of battle, where troops are just firing over the heads of oncoming troops. Troops are in the chaos, just everybody's pell-mell firing at whatever they can. Self-survival, self-preservation.
Yeah,
Not very effective fire, I guess, basically.
No, it isn't. Yes.
Just to let you know, it's almost 10 to 12, so we can move on unless there's a crucial question here.
My second question was just about the sling arms. Is that mainly during like a route march? Or
yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's if you're not nice long march away from the calendar.
Enemy. Okay.
How many actions?
Okay, I will now move on. So we're now going into the second part of the presentation, if it wants to work. Oh, sorry, it's the steps. Just a very quick one on this, please. The steps. So you have mark time, change step, and backward step. The mark time, the only thing I would say about this is when you mark time, you're not stepping in place. You are still swinging the foot out and bringing it back. So it's not on the spot. It's actually you're throwing the leg out, bringing it back, then throwing the other one out and bringing it back. The change step is what you're seeing in the video. That's what they're practicing. Change step is the foot that's behind comes back to the side of the foot in front, and it's that same foot, the foot that was behind, that starts again. Therefore, you're changing the step. Marching to the rear, it's a 1 foot distance measured heel to heel, and it is at the same tempo as marching forward. And whichever foot happens to be in front at halt is brought back in line with the foot at the rear. Flank marching. So this is when you're marching by the flank. That is one behind the other per rank. So peloton par le flanc à droite, droite, par le flanc à gauche, gauche, marche. It is not necessary to say en avant. Too many people say en avant when they're using flank marching. Once you've got that platoon or that squad of soldiers facing one flank or the other, just marche will do. You don't need an en avant. If you want them to march backwards, you can by all means say en arrière marche. But to be frank, if you're doing that, you may as well have just faced them to the left in the first place. In order to avoid opening the files, which is the bane of flank marching in reenactors, because we are not professional soldiers doing this all the time, the regulations clearly state that the soldier is not to bend his knee. He has to maintain the principles of marching. So ham of the leg tight, flat foot coming down, point of the toes towards the front. This is to avoid him also walking on the heels of the man in front of him. And naturally, each man must follow the other exactly. When you're turning, do not cut the corner, as happens too often. You're supposed to turn in the exact same position as the man that preceded you. The changing directions. So to change directions, par fil à droite, marche. At this point, it can be done on either feet. Again, I know there's some sort of unwritten convention here in Europe that everything is done by the right. There is no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that per se. But in terms of regulation, this can be done on either the left or the right foot. And everybody should be turning at exactly the same spot. At the halt and front, the men face in the natural direction. So if you were marching to the left flank, at halt and front, you face to the right. If you're marching to the right, halt, front, you turn to the left. Changing front on the march. So par le flanc à droite ou à gauche, marche. This is not a gradual turn as in the par fil. This is an instant snap into a new direction. It can be again given on either foot as it is about to complete the step. And when the full order is given, the soldier instantly turns to the left or the right and continues in the same direction without changing the tempo of the step. It is only used in the soldier school to prepare the soldiers for a movement that's called à droite, tourner à droite, tourner à gauche in platoon and battalion school. It is not it's not used for anything else apart from that. But we will quickly see a little bit of that towards the end of this part of the presentation.
Rory Martello has a quick question.
I'm happy to take it.
Thanks, Mark. You might have answered the question on the next slide. It was just to say, is it when the turn is given, it's a more of a gradual turn sort of curve rather than an instant turn, if that makes sense.
All depends. It all depends in the direction that the officer wants you to go.
Okay.
It can be gradual, or it can be a bit tighter. It just depends the turn that you have to do.
Okay, fair enough.
No problem. So the dressings to the front, à gauche, à droite, alignement. Alignement being the order to execution. Very, very rare that you find people who do dressing correctly. The main important point that the regulations keep talking about when you're doing dressings is they say the men must never, ever go past the dressing point. Once it goes past the dressing point, that's it, you've failed the maneuver. So they explain quite clearly, the men march in ordinary time until they arrive within 6 inches of the new line they're supposed to dress. So if you have a man in front of you, you march up until you're 6 inches away from him. The soldiers then, without orders, this is all done automatically, stops, turns his head to the dressing point, and then still throwing the legs in and out, takes tiny, tiny steps, basically crawling almost into the new direction, the new dressing. He must never, ever go past that dressing point. And if you come up to a dressing point marching ordinary, it is inevitable that you might overstep the mark, and then you have to dress back. And every other guy dressing afterwards is obviously taken by your movement and then dresses back as well. So no, you march up 6 inches before you stop, you turn your head to the dressing point, and then inch your way forward. And you keep your head turned here once you've arrived into the position until the order fixe, eyes front, has been given. So that's dressing to the front. It is also possible to dress to a point behind you, a dressing point that's behind you, in which case the order will be en arrière, à droite, ou à gauche, alignement. At this point, you march backwards, following the principles of the backwards march that was at the beginning of this school in ordinary time. When you've cleared the dressing point by 6 inches, the soldier stops, turns his head to the dressing point, and then inches his way forward until he arrives to the dressing point and keeps the head still looking out to the dressing point with the order fixe. Now we go into the wheelings. So wheeling from the halt is simply ordered by par peloton à droite. It can also be done par peloton à gauche if you want to go to the left. Marche. In soldier school, the soldiers, whilst they turn their heads a little to the left if you're wheeling to the right. So basically the objective is, if you're wheeling to the right, you look out a little to the left, the wheeling flank, but you're touching to the pivot flank. So you touch inside and you look outside. If you were wheeling to the left, you would touch to your left and you would look out to your right. The ranks must be, for this maneuver, straight. As the wheel is conducted, the ranks remain straight and they do not open out in the center, break, or displace the pivot. Any pressure coming in from that wheeling flank onto the pivot must be resisted. To halt the wheel from a halted position is platoon halt. So this is for a platoon which is halted, and then you make it wheel on the spot into a new direction. However, you can also wheel while the platoon is moving. Two different orders for that. This is wheeling on the march opposite the pivot flank. So basically, if you look at the figure 3, you will see identified by the letter M and letter D. It's the same NCO. This is a guide, basically, the guide, normally a sergeant. And here, your platoon is marching forward, but it wants to wheel on the march out towards the right. What happens at this point? The order is à droite conversion or à gauche conversion marche. The first command is given 2 paces before the wheeling point. Very important. I would even say give it 3 paces. The dressing is done on the pivot flank. So basically that man on the inside, this is the thing that most people don't know, is the man who's on the pivot flank. He does not mark time on the spot. He has to imagine that he is doing a small circle in the new direction. So he's still marching forward and turning at the same time. And he is not going any faster than the wheeling man, than the wheeling flank. The ranks here are permitted. It is said in the regulations, the ranks in the center will bend in. This is what we see. And it is allowed to. This is natural and it is allowed to bend. So when you're wheeling on a fixed, at the halt, ranks are not allowed to bend. When you're wheeling opposite the pivot flank, that is opposite the guide, those ranks in the middle can bend. It is permitted. But what about if you want to wheel? In this case, you're wheeling towards the right, so you're opposite the pivot flank. That's no problem. But what about if you want to wheel on the side of the guide, the pivot flank? That is a different form of wheel on the march. This becomes a tournée à gauche or a tournée à droite. Again, first command 2, I would recommend 3 steps before the wheeling point. And as soon as the march is given, that wheeling man, the sergeant, figure G and 2, turns instantly. Remember the movement they learned in the school where you turn instantly on the spot and go off into the new direction? This is why they need to learn that part. He's going to turn instantly in that new direction. Here it is a 90-degree angle. It does not have to be 90 degrees. It can be any turn on the side of the pivot flank. When that happens, every man in the rank half turns in the new direction, takes up the quick time, and as he arrives into the new direction, so he passes the man on the left, snaps and comes up in quick time. When he arrives in his place on the line, he takes a quick look out to the dressing point, takes the ordinary step of the soldiers. So yes, the soldiers arrive one after another into this new line. More on this in the platoon school. We've come to the end of part 3 of the soldier school. Are there any questions about the soldier school? Afterwards, we'll be going on to the NCO's duties and, of course, the saluting.
If I can interrupt for a moment, just to let everyone know, it is now noon. I have no problem staying longer, but I don't know about Mark, if you have the time to continue on.
I have booked sufficient time. I had the feeling this might go over. And since we are recording, if anybody needs to go to work or has another urgent appointment, no worries. You can always ask for a copy and watch the rest of the presentation. So I'm fine to stay to the end.
Very good.
Any questions about the third?
Nicholas. Is there a rear conversion en arrière?
No, the French army does not wheel to the rear ever. This is British army does in line wheel to the rear and the front. The French army in line only wheels to the front. It is possible, there is a movement if you cannot wheel to the front, where the French will file march to the rear to form a column, but this is a platoon maneuver. So I would invite Nicolas, of course, to come back and watch the platoon school for that. Any other questions? Very well. In that case, we will move on. We will now be looking at the duties and responsibilities of French Napoleonic NCOs, specifically the caporal, the sergeant, and the sergeant major in camp, in garrison, and in battle. Particular emphasis here will be placed on camp and garrison. This is all from the 1830 Manuel d'Infanterie, which is basically a big text of everything that goes on in the infantry. We will start, by the way, for questions here, I will be more than happy to take questions about the different ranks once we arrive at the end of their presentation, as opposed to the end of the entire presentation of the duty. So when I finish explaining what the sergeant major does, I will take questions on the sergeant major. Likewise, when we talk about the sergeant and the corporals. The sergeant major, 2 gold bars or 2 silver bars if you're in the light infantry. He's the company's chief advisor, and he oversees and commands the company's service. In essence, he is the most important man in a company. Everybody thinks it's the officers. No, the officers are not that important when they delegate the everyday details to the sergeant major and give him the general orders of the day. It's his job afterwards to make sure that his subordinates and the company soldiers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. He is answerable to the company's officers for the company's discipline, service, and for all the administration. He is in charge of 90% of the administration of the company. By discipline, it's basically keeping, of course, things in order, but also promptitude, tidiness, and observation of orders. He is in charge and supervises the service of his company's sergeants. The sergeant major talks to the officers every morning, what they want to do. Once he knows what needs to be done, he calls the sergeants of the company, gives them the orders, and then they go off and make sure the corporals and the soldiers know what they're doing. So the sergeants do not need to see officers. Everything goes through the sergeant major. He's like the interface between the officers and the rest of the company. He's in charge of the company's administration books. We'll be briefly looking at that a little bit later on. Any soldiers that are in hospital, that are sick, he keeps their arms and equipment in his quarters. He is in charge of them while they are in hospital. And of course, he is exempted from all chores, corvées in French, and he has his own quarters that he shares with the caporal fourrier. So this man does not make his own soup, he does not make his own food, he does not clean his own room. Other soldiers of the companies do that for him. What does he actually do? Each morning, Sergeant Major witnesses the roll call made by the sergeants, make sure no one's gone off during the night, and he knows exactly how many men there are to do whatever duty needs to be done that day. He makes sure the sergeants do the proper paperwork for the roll call, and that they have checked what the corporal's paperwork as well. He completes the daily report. The daily report basically is a document that the sergeant major gets ready every morning and presents to the officers. It states how many men are fit for duty, how many men are in hospital, how many men are sick, how many men are punished, how many men are detailed for such and such a duty. Everything is written down so that when the officers decide what the day is going to comprise, they have all the details at hand to make an informed decision. Of course, once the decision of the officers is taken, he notes down everything they tell him, calls the sergeants, and then tells the sergeants, this is what we're doing. Make sure you write it down in your own handbooks. And then afterwards, they disperse the orders down onto the lower ranks. And throughout the day, he supervises the sergeants. He's not bothered by the corporals and the soldiers as such. He is bothered by the sergeants. If something is not working in a particular squad or in a particular subdivision, he does not blame per se the soldier. He will make sure the sergeant who is in charge of that particular unit gets it in the neck. Administration books. He is personally responsible of the order book. So every day the order book is filled in. What sort of things are in the order book? The dress of the day. If you're on sentry duty, this is how the men are to be dressed. If you are on off duty, this is how you are dressed. If you are training, this is how you are dressed. If you are going out, this is how you are dressed. The rotations, who is on guard duty, who is not on guard duty, who is on super duty, who is on wood duty, everything is noted in the order book. And once he has noted that, the sergeants themselves get individual papers, sheets of paper, sorry, which is filled out, handed to them with all these details, and the sergeants put these pieces of paper publicly on a public notice board in the soldiers' common quarters so that everybody knows what they're doing. If the soldier cannot read, he gets his corporal to explain everything that's on the board for him. The service book is a bit more detailed, what sort of service the day is going to have. The roll call book, again, who is there in the evening, who is there in the morning. The punish book, or as the French soldiers called it, le petit livre rouge, the little red book, because it was in a red cover. He keeps hold of that. Minor punishments, the sergeants and corporals can dish them out themselves, but any minor punishment or any punishment given by the sergeant and the corporals must be advised to the sergeant major so it gets registered in the book. And what's registered in this book will be put on the daily report. Any major punishments, it's the sergeant major that has to decide them. It's not the sergeants and the corporals do not put people in prison. The sergeants and the corporals do not give heavy fatigue duties. That is the sergeant that decides. And anything more serious than that, prison, execution, it is the officer in charge of the company that decides. But everything is noted in the punishment book. And of course, he's in charge of preparing and keeping the daily report. That's the end of the Sergeant Major. Does anybody have a question about this NCO?
Well, looks like you can proceed.
We will proceed then. The second most important NCO in the company is the Caporal Fourier. We can call him a quartermaster. He is the company's accountant, secretary, and intendant. He is answerable to the sergeant major because, unlike the Fourier, the sergeant major has the right to sign documents. He has the power to sign. Anything that's prepared or by the Fourier, he cannot sign. He has to get it validated by the sergeant major, which means, in essence, if the sergeant major so wish, he can delegate any and all of the paperwork and administration work that he wants to the Caporal Fourier. So in essence, he's his henchman. However, he is in charge of filling in the company's detail books. That's not something the sergeant major has to fill in. It's the Fourier that fills in. But if he fills it in badly, it's the sergeant major's fault because the sergeant major should be keeping an eye on it. What is the detail book? It's a stock book. Weapons, how much weapons we have, food, ammunition, tools, all that sort of thing is in the company detail book. And he is also the man that fills in the soldier's individual service book. Each soldier had a service book that explained his career, anything that had to be put in, promotion, injury, a distribution of equipment or any clothing that he received, went into his service book with a date so that we could keep tabs on how often he was using up the equipment. And it's the Fourier that fills it in. He prepares the daily report with the sergeant major because he has the sergeant major to provide everything that the company has in depot. So that's where he comes in. And of course, he is exempted from all chores, corvées, and he has the right to quarter with the sergeant major. In a garrison, they would have both of them their own quarters. On campaign, they share the same tent, and it's only the sergeant major and the Fourier that share a tent, no one else.
Pat has a question.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So when the soldiers were foraging and the army was kind enough to give an IOU to the civilians whose cows they took, who would issue that credit?
That would be the Fourier, company secretary. And then he would make a note. He would make a note of that in the detail book or in the accounts book if any money was exchanged or promised to be exchanged.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So the foyer, his duties and responsibilities. He conducts the different payments. Any payments made to the soldiers, it is not the sergeant major that does it. It is the foyer, but he cannot do this without the presence of an officer. He conducts all distributions, rations, equipment, weapons, ammunition in garrison, and that is. But he can only do that if he is ordered to do so by the company officers. He cannot take it upon himself to distribute to you extra bread or extra rum off his own back. He needs to have an order from the officer to do it. And of course, the officer needs to be present during this distribution. As I said, at the sergeant major's discretion, the foyer is called upon to do any and all of the foremost paperwork. The documents of all hospitalized soldiers, he documents them, he puts them down into there's a sick roll, there's a sick register, he notes everything down. He's the one who takes possession of the sick hospitalized men's equipment and arms and brings them to the sergeant major, who puts them in his room for safekeeping until they come back to duty. Before we move on to the sergeant, I don't think there's any other questions, but I'll put it out there if there's something else.
I think we're good to go.
Good. So the sergeant. The sergeant, he's answerable to the sergeant major. He's in charge of a subdivision, a subdivision in French. A subdivision is made up of 2 escouades. Escouade is a squad. Historically, this is about 15 soldiers headed by a corporal. So he has around 30 men per sergeants. He is in charge of their discipline, the order, and their service. He supervises the corporal of his escouades permanently under continual supervision. He is exempted from all chores, and he quarters in a room with other sergeants. The sergeants all sleep in the same quarters, just by themselves. Sergeant major and foyer, they're somewhere else in another quarter. His duties and responsibilities include, but are not limited to, timeliness. He makes sure everything happens on time. That is done with promptitude and effectiveness. Their military instruction. This is not only the drill. He is not only the NCO who is in charge of teaching them the drill, but also how to carry out all and any military duty. Offenses, he decides and implements minor punishments and, as said, must inform the sergeant major so that he can put it in the punishment books. He is personally answerable for their cleanliness, be it the men's cleanliness, their uniforms or equipment, and the quarters where the men sleep. He executes the morning and evening roll calls of his subdivisions and informs the sergeant major of any persons missing and any other information concerning the men. So basically, if there's a problem, it goes from the corporal to the sergeant major, who will to the sergeant major, and then if necessary, it will be brought to the attention of the officers. Additional roles that the sergeants do in their companies is what's known as sergent de semaine. This is the weekly duty sergeant, answerable for the appearance and rotation of the guards. Normally, historically, the guards are changed once every 24 hours. So a company would be in charge of guard duty for 24 full hours, and it would be the sergent de semaine in rotation. It would be all the sergeants on a roster that would know whether they would be weekly duty sergeant or not. That takes care of all the rotations for that week. And then the next week, it would be another sergeant, and so on and so forth. The sergeant de garde, the guard sergeant, he is in charge of a guard post or eventually a small forward guard post, I think we would call it. And he's in charge also of all the pickets that are attached to it. And the sergeant de ronde, ronde meaning round, or basically round in the sense that he's going to visit all the pickets. So he's going around the garrison and then coming back to the same spot. He executes inspections during the day. This is called a ronde major, and he executes them at night. This is called ronde simple. At night, he is not per se inspecting the pickets, though he can. He is also showing that there is a continuous control on the soldiers during the night by means of, at strategic places around the garrison, on the round that he must do, he's given a batch of little coins. It's little coins made of wood and on there is a number that's assigned to him, and he drops that in a tin container. And at the end of the morning, we gather the tin containers, and if everybody's coin is in there, it means it proves that you have indeed gone past this post at the appropriate time, hopefully, but you have actually done it. If any coins are missing, we know who it is, and we'll try and find out why the coin is missing. It normally means he hasn't actually done his duty. That's it for sergeants. Anybody have a question about sergeants' roles?
All quiet.
All quiet on the Western Front. Let's move on. So we go down to the corporal now. The corporal. He's in charge of an escouade. So a squad, again, in terms of discipline, order, and service, he's answerable to and under the continuous supervision of his subdivision sergeant. He is only exempted from the corvée de soupe, that is meal prep. He does not help prepare meals. He does help clean, he does help do manual work, etc., but he is definitely exempted from preparing any food. And unlike the sergeants who sleep together, and the sergeant major who sleeps with the fourier, the corporal sleeps with his men in the men's quarters. So he's the closest authority the men have. His duties and responsibilities, not limited, but include: he keeps a list of all his soldiers' names and another list of all the articles and furniture in his squad's quarters. He is personally answerable for example, the bread knife going missing. Or if there's a chair that's broken or that's been graffitied on, well, guess who's going to get it in the neck? It will be the corporal, because he's supposed to be in charge of the good housekeeping and good maintenance of any furniture that's found in the quarter. He makes sure that the orders of the day are publicly displayed. So the sergeant, having got the orders of the day from the sergeant major, he would give the copies to their different corporals, and the corporals would put it on a public notice board inside the men's quarters. If necessary, again, I repeat, if any soldiers cannot read, he reads the orders of the day to his soldiers. He is responsible to make sure that if there is an order that, for example, guard duty, you wear such and such a dress and such an equipment, he makes sure those guys are dressed exactly according to those orders. It is not, oh my God, it is raining, or oh my God, it is a bit nippy this morning, I think I'll put on a grey coat. No, if the orders say you do not put grey coats, you do not put grey coats. You do not put mittens off your back if it's not written on the orders of the day. He's responsible for the cleanliness of his men, their arms, and their equipment. In the morning, when he wakes his soldier up, he must make sure, it's stated in the manual of 1813, that they wash their faces, wash their hands, and also that they shave. And likewise, he must make sure that the cleanliness of the quarters are impeccable. He has to open and close the windows to let the air in and get the dust out 2 times a day. So each morning, here it is, his duties. He makes sure his men get up, wash their hands and faces, and shave. This corporal obviously is going to have a bit of problems later on. He ensures that the quarters are swept, clean, beds made, etc. before the duty officer's visit. The duty officer will visit every morning and every evening before the soldiers are locked up, to make sure everything is clean and in the right place. If a corporal and his squad are detailed for guard duty, normally it's around 9:45, 10 o'clock that the rotation of the guard happens. 9 o'clock, he makes sure his men are well turned out. 9:30, he takes the men to the weekly duty sergeant for inspection. And if they pass inspection, they are taken to the guard for the next 24 hours. If they're not ready, if he has not respected the orders of the day, it's his fault. And he has to go back and rectify it as quickly as possible. There are 2 additional roles that a corporal can be called upon to doing. The pitcher is not one of those roles. The corporal, caporal de patrouille, this is patrol corporal. On the specific orders of an officer, he can be asked to take a patrol and patrol an area or a perimeter. but he cannot do this off his own initiative. It has to be ordered by the officers of the company. And caporal de garde, certain posts, smaller posts, it is the corporal and not the sergeant that is in charge. And he has the same responsibilities as the sergeant for that post and for the pickets that are attached to it. Any questions? As you can see on the video, this is a public order board in the soldiers' quarters. Any questions?
Pat has a question.
Go on, Pat.
Yeah, for the corporals, do they porter les armes like the soldiers, or do they carry their arm low and on the other side like the sergeants?
They carry their arm, if they are in the ranks, if they are not doing guides or in the supernumerary rank, they carry their arms like soldiers. The only time they carry the arms like the sergeant is if they are occupying a cadre role. They might be the left-hand guide or the right-hand guide. Then they carry arms like sergeants. Or maybe if they are doing a patrol, then they are in charge of that patrol. They carry the arms like a sergeant.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
So Mark Page has a question with regard to roll call. Is it carried out by calling names or numbers?
Names. It is done by carrying out names. The numbers of each soldiers that is found in the company register book. That's for the sergeant major to find out who which number goes with which name. But no, it's done by surname. Any other questions?
Yes, there's one from Gerouin.
Mm-hmm. What is the question?
Unless I mispronounced his name.
Hello? Do you hear me?
Your own? Yes.
Yeah. Do the soldiers, if they're called upon in the morning, do they have to answer something like saying present, or what do they say?
Ah, you mean when they call the name?
Yeah.
Présent.
Présent. Okay, thank you.
That's it. If they say anything else, it depends afterwards how indulgent the sergeant or the corporal is. But normally this would not be well received, because if you start laughing and joking means you're not exactly disciplined anymore. You're now... Voilà. So it's just présent.
Présent. Okay, thank you.
Chris Main has a question, followed by Mark Page.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, you talk about all these unit records and everything that were kept by individuals. Where did they all eventually end up at? I mean, were they just kept by those individuals, or do they eventually go into an archive somewhere?
Eventually, when they get filled up, they do go into the company archives back at the depot. They are not kept by the company on the field, except maybe if it's they might keep like one full copy just for reference, but in essence everything goes back to the depot. Most of these order books and administration books, alas, have through the course of time disappeared or have not survived up to us. I have seen several of them in the National Army Archives at Vincennes Castle. And they give, especially the orders, the daily orders book, they give incredible insight into how the guys actually were told to dress for different things. And it does vary depending on many things, such as weather conditions of the day, what sort of duties they were expecting to do, and what sort of state their units are, especially field units. But
those vary per theater, like the Peninsula versus mainland Europe, or they all pretty much the same?
In terms of duties?
Well, I guess just in general.
in terms of duties, whether you're not very well equipped, or you don't have a lot of stock, or you're fully stocked up, you still have to do these things. You still have to do guard duties. You still have to train the men, etc. Bearing in mind that most of these things in garrisons, in actual physical garrisons where units are going to be stuck for a while, are easier to do than field units where the administration, I suppose, is maybe not that important, but still needs to be done. And you would have extra duties like making sure you don't get pounced upon by the enemy.
Okay, thanks.
No
Mark
problem.
Page?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, with the roll call, presumably when soldiers are in barracks, the sergeant would attend the soldiers' quarters and call the roll call. But what about on campaign? Are the men brought together at a given time in the morning? And would that be just the squads that the sergeant's in charge of, or the whole peloton, or what?
Okay, the detail, it doesn't, the regulations don't talk too much about how it's done in campaigns. So I will tell you how it's supposed to be done in a garrison, which must not be that dissimilar. But basically in the morning, you will have a roll call. It is not, you will have a roll call done by the corporals. So you will, I think that's near daybreak. I'd have to check that out. But basically the corporals roll call is literally everybody out of bed as you are. Roll call, everybody's here. Good. Everybody, you can go off to bed. And then you have the official roll call by the sergeant, and that's everybody would be in whatever uniform or order of dress that the order book had stated prior. So that's the sergeant would do that, and that would be the note that goes up to the sergeant major, accompanied by the corporal's notes. There may be a man who did not do the first roll call, the corporal's informal roll call, just to make sure everybody hasn't somebody hasn't deserted because he's sick. The corporal can then go and see the sergeant and already say, right, this guy's too sick. And from then on, the sergeant would then say, well, if he is sick, in that case, we better get him to the hospital. The sergeant would then advise the foyer that a man is sick, so he needs to collect the stuff. The foyer would go and collect his equipment, take it to the sergeant major for safekeeping. So it's checks and counter checks in essence.
Sure.
On campaign, I suspect that there would be a roll call in the morning, definitely to find out who's still there, who has deserted or not. And likewise, if somebody's too ill to fight on, well, then also, yeah, he's got to be sent back or sent to hospital, but he's not included in the daily report because that man is out of shape. You can't expect the officers to organize the day's duties if they don't know how many men are actually fit for duty or ready to be mobilized.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
I think we should move on to saluting.
Okay. We're now moving on to the last part of our presentation, which is a definitive guide to saluting in the French Army. This is taken from, again, the 1813 manual, which I would recommend anybody to get their hands on. It is available online for free at the French National Library. And the Règlement Militaire de l'an 13 of 1805. So lots of discussion I've heard over the years about this. We can now give you a definitive guide, which more or less mirrors each other. If there are any discrepancies, I will be pointing them out. So first of all, this will be done in different situations. The first situation is soldiers passing before superior officers. Okay. So what is a superior officer? In the 1805 manual, this is a general officer, so anything above the rank of a general brigade, a marshal, a general division, etc. The commander of a camp or a garrison, a colonel, or a senior regimental officer. So this could be the captain. I think the captain would be the most senior. No, this would be the senior company officer. So the senior regimental officer would be like a lieutenant colonel or something along those lines. In any case, superior officers that pass any soldier, the soldier stops, takes up in the photo, like you see, the garde-à-vous position, and he stays in this position facing the direction of the officer until he has passed. And the manual, the regulation as it states, this form of saluting is designed not only to show respect, but also willingness to submit to an inspection. And that's all there is. We're showing a willingness to put yourself down for an inspection should that passing general decide to do. In 1813, Bardin, Major Bardin, the writer of the 1813 regulation, dissects it further, explains it into further details. So basically, now corporals and privates passing before senior officers, so the same officers we just mentioned, and the captain of their own company, if they're passing, they stop, they take the garde-à-vous position, and they face in the direction of the officer. Okay, and he stays in this position until such time as either the officer passes or shows for him to carry on, or gets the hint that he's not actually going to be inspected. Sorry about the background of these videos. This was done during France's first lockdown in March last year, so I had to make do with the walls of my bedroom. So that's corporals and privates. Corporals and privates passing junior officers. So from captain upwards, we've just seen how to salute them when you're passing in front. If you're passing junior officers, lieutenants, second lieutenants, you do not stop. You keep walking. You salute with the hand opposite to the side they are on. So if they are on your left-hand side, you would salute them with the right hand. And if they are on your left, if they're on the right-hand side, you would, of course, salute them with the left. So it's always hand flat, opposite side of the person you are saluting. Okay. Sergeants, slightly different. Sergeants passing both senior and junior officers, so it's easy, it's everybody. If they're passing, they stop, but they do not go into the garde-à-vous position. They initially go to it, and then they bring the hand up and place it on their headgear. All other officers, they do the same, but without stopping. So in essence, they're doing what the corporals and the soldiers are doing. Is that clear, the distinction between senior and junior officers, or does anybody want more precision?
Looks like we're okay.
Perfect, good. That's the sergeants.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
It just came on. How is the salute carried out?
If it is a senior if it is a superior officer, if you were marching past them, going past them, you would just stop. You would face in their direction and stand with your hands by your side in the attention position. If you're a corporal, or sorry, that's if the officers pass you. So you would stop and go into the position of the attention. If you're a sergeant, you would do likewise and then lift your hand and keep it to your cap. And if you're going past them and they're at the standstill, if you're a corporal or a soldier, you would just salute with the hand up on the opposite side of where the officer stood. And if you're a sergeant, you would do likewise.
I think it's more a question of style. Like, is it slowly up and quickly down, or?
Oh, okay. No, it's not late 19th century ramrod, you know, get that arm straight and it's shaking really hard because you've tensed up the muscle. It doesn't actually say how to do it. So it would just be lift it and keep it there. It wouldn't be ramrod straight or lightning quick. It would just be carried out at a prompt pace, like turning your head, but not at a quick pace.
Okay, they say thanks.
No problem. So the superior officers passing before soldiers at the halt. So your superior officers are passing you and your mates. Some of you are standing talking, and some of you maybe are sitting. In that case, everybody, of course, if you're sitting, stands up. And everybody, if you're a soldier, or sorry, if you're a private or a corporal, you would stand and put yourself in the garde-à-vous position. You would go to attention. If you are a sergeant in that group, you would stand if you're sitting, and you would lift your hand to your cap, like in the photo. So the sergeants systematically lift their hands to their caps. The soldiers do not. They take the position of garde-à-vous, except when they're going past junior officers, in which case they lift the hand on the opposite side of where the junior officers are standing. Okay. Moving on. If you're called, it looks like if I'm having a piss against my door, that video, called by any other officer whilst wearing a regimental cap. This is not just they're going past you, you're going past them. If you're actually called by any officer and you're wearing your regimental cap, so this would be either the bicorn before the shako was widely introduced, or the shako itself, you would go, like on the video is showing, you would go up to the officer, and afterwards you would lift your hand. It does not state which hand, it just states lift a hand and keep it there, even while talking, until such time as the officer invites you to take it down. So if you do this with the right hand or the left hand, there is nothing in the text that says it's incorrect, one is incorrect and one is right. However, you keep that hand up there until the officer, if he wants to, tells you to take it down. And even when you're talking, you keep your hand up there until you're invited to take it down. So that's if an officer wants to talk to you and you are without a musket.
Okay, we have a quick question. What is the superior officer's response to the salute?
The superior officer's response, they have to return it. They have to return it. They don't stop for you to inspect, but they would they have to lift the hand up.
Got it.
Of course, if they don't, that doesn't dispense you from doing it likewise.
Now, once they've saluted you, are you then at ease to move your hand? I would assume.
If they are walking past you and they haven't stopped to inspect you, as soon as they've gone past you, that's it. That's finished. If it's you going past them, you would just stop. If you're a corporal or soldier, stop, turn, present. I suppose that the officer would either salute with a hand, maybe give you a courteous nod. And if you see he's not going to go any further than that, you just carry on along your way.
Thank you.
Okay. If you are with arms on the move, or even not on the move, if you're hanging around with your mates with a musket already in a garrison, this is suspicious. A soldier does not have a musket unless if he is on guard duty or training, and it should be at a rack somewhere. But if you are with arms, but you are not part of a formation, you're actually on your own or maybe with a bunch of your mates, and the officer calls you, you would go over, but instead of saluting with your hand and keeping it there, you would present arms and keep this position whilst talking to him, whilst responding. And the only time you would stop doing that is when you're actually dismissed and told to carry on. Okay. Moving on with that. If you're not with your regimental cap, so if you're not wearing your bicorn, if it's pre-shako days, or your shako, whenever an officer is near you, goes past you, calls you over, wants to talk to you, there is only one thing to do. That is take the attention position, take off your bonnet de police or your pokelem and hold it beside your thigh. Likewise, if they come into your quarters, if you have your bonnet, you would just take the garde-à-vous position and quickly take that off-duty cap or any other cap that is not your regimental cap off your head.
So Giorgio has a quick question.
Yep. See?
It was about the salute under arms when you have your musket with you. If you're a sergeant or a corporal, and you have your weapon on the right arm, do you present? Also, yes. Always present. Okay.
It is present as well. You follow you follow at the end of the 1791 regulations. There is the explanation on how the sergeant can do the different present maneuvers from his side. It's actually quite simple, but yes, Bardin does not. The 1813 manual does not make distinctions for sergeants in this case, but it does for all the other cases. So it must mean all the soldiers present arms when they have their muskets. Right. Any other questions? So
your closing remarks?
Closing remarks. bit of a challenge, and I've also realized this room, I should have heated it up a little bit more because I'm quite cold. That's just the way it is. I would like to thank everybody for taking their time to come and listen to the presentation. It's a first for me to have such a big international audience. I hope it was to your satisfaction. As said, the recording and the PowerPoint are at your disposition for a very, very, very insignificant fee, just to cover the time I've invested preparing everything for you, and equally Victor helping me out. If anybody feels I deserve a beer, and believe me, I feel like having one, having talked almost non-stop all this time, please feel free, but not obligated, to spare $1 or maybe €1 on PayPal, and I will drink a very good beer to your health, of course. Apart from that, I hope that some of you will be able to attend some of our events in Europe. Even with COVID, we are still very busy preparing events in the hope that they will happen, be it Fontainebleau, be it the Champs-Élysées parade in May, and of course for the campaigners amongst you who want an immersive experience of Napoleonic soldiering, there is the La Boissière 1815 campaign at the end of August that's awaiting for you to take part and to put all of this into practice. And again, I would like to thank Victor for seeking me out and giving me the honor of being your lecturer today. If anybody else likes the idea, I am available, and I can do the lectures in French and in English, of course.
And for those who want a copy of both the PowerPoint and the recording of today's session, if you send me an email at victor.eiser, that's spelled E-I-S-E-R, at yahoo.com, we would ask for $5 by PayPal, and I'd be happy then to collate this and send it. It's very large. The PowerPoint itself, I think, was 86 megabytes. So it's got both videos inserted into it, as well as the stills. You know, it's quite the undertaking. I also hope that you'll join us on February the 6th for Ecole du Peloton, where I think we'll maybe have a short review of some of the basics, but then get into much more of the interesting maneuvers that you would need to know on any reenactment that you're going to do. That's it. I will stop the recording.
And just one more last thing, if I may, Victor. Of course, I would not be doing myself any services if I did not plug my own book. So you do have an English translation. Most of you have it here. You do have an English translation of the School of the Soldier of the 1791 regulations. It is available at Ken Trotman Publishing, and it has lots of pictures and images to help with the PowerPoint presentation. Sorry about the shameless plugging. Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome. If that's it, unless anyone has a special comment, I will turn the recording off and get myself a beer as well.
Victor, I was just wondering when 1791 regulations were officially kind of in the ground, were no longer used.
When they stopped using them, you mean? The first major modification came in the 1830s.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Between 1791 and 1830, it's exactly the same thing.
There are a lot of commentaries, however, from various marshals as to how they thought things might go better, different. Some of those were adopted, some were up to the colonel of your regiment who said, we're going to do it differently. He's the ultimate boss of your regiment. You followed what he said.
And those sorts of decisions can be found in the order books as well. On the other hand, let's see, that it has to be borne in mind that the 1791 regulations are compromise regulations between the two big military theorists of the time in the French military. You had those who advocated the column, as the basics of everything, and those who advocated still the line. And the 1791 regulation, though very linear orientated, it's very much an 18th century military doctrine document. They did try and find a compromise between these two schools of thoughts, hence why they introduced new things like the attack column. But that's battalion school. It's not yet for this evening.
Okay. And for those interested in the Ecole du Peloton, I will send out another invitation later on with giving you the coordinates for that talk. Thanks, Marc. Thank you everyone for listening and following the rules. I know it's hard not to shout out your question, but we appreciate how orderly everyone was. Great soldiers to you all. Vive l'Empereur. Thank you very much and see you next month.